So I mentioned before, we are celebrating 15 years of OpenStreetMap US. 15 years of a nonprofit started to serve the state of the map US in the community. What does it look like 15 years ago? Well, it was incorporated by 5 volunteers to hold the first State of the Map. Was anyone at the 2010 State of the Map? We've got 2, 3, fantastic. We incorporated April, so that makes us an Aries, for those of you who think about star signs, our signs. And in 2018, we hired our first executive director. In 2019, I became the executive director. So there's a story there, but I don't have time for that. So we started transitioning to a staff-driven organization in 2019, which has enabled us to do more things. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is kind of the work that OpenStreetMap US has been up to, how everyone can get involved, and kind of that path forward. Just to show you what it looked like in 2010. I think our group picture is going to need a little zoomed out today. It's a little blurry, but I see you, Mike. So what's happened since then? Well, we've had 33 volunteer board members. Thank you to those folks. Our Slack channel has grown to have more than 8,000 people using it, with, how many channels does it say? 287. So if you're interested about anything under the sun that has to do with OpenStreetMap, you can find a channel and another person to talk to about it. We've had 5 virtual conferences in 2020. We did a huge pivot and started doing an annual conference, Mapping USA. And we've continued to do it every year because it's a really great opportunity for folks to connect that can't travel or make it to State of the Map during the year. We've had Mappy hours, 58 recorded, but we've had a lot more than those. If anybody's been to a Mappy hour, you know how fun they are, in person and virtually. We have 10 new organizational membership. I said this earlier, but we just started that program a couple years ago, so this is big for us. If you were there last night, another stat, not enough paper plates. And a couple other things that are fun. We've grown to actually 9 working groups since I made this slide, so that's pretty fun too. Here's what the map looked like in 2010. You can see a difference, right? That's all because of y'all. That's pretty cool. There was talk of, when I first came on, there was the Mapmobile. We were going to deck out a geo bus and drive across country, and you know what? I think we still might, so don't lose hope. I introduced the team earlier, but they're going to be coming up here, so I'm going to make sure you know them. Jake Lowe, our software engineer. Nellie Blair is our administrative coordinator. She loves to hide in the back. So Alyssa Castronuovo is our program coordinator. Jake and Alyssa came on in August of this year. And a lot of you probably know Martijn, our resident fractional senior citizen. He's been around OpenStreetMap a while. Here's our board. They will be speaking on Saturday afternoon. You can meet them then. Like I said, Harrison and Jazzy and maybe Levante will be here. We will be missing the other 2. The board is voted in by our membership. So if anybody ever thinks about getting more involved in OpenStreetMap in a different way, we have elections every year for new board members. You serve 2 terms. And you meet with me every month and kind of help me through things and provide advice and counsel and manage our books too. So thank you to Harrison as our treasurer. So who is OpenStreetMap US? Why are we here? So like I said, 15 years ago, we were started to convene folks. We were brought together as a community to bring the community together. And we've just continued to do more of that. As we've grown as an organization, we kind of sit at the cross-section of all of those folks who touch the map for whatever reason they touch it, and we want to be there to support them. Whether it's volunteers, nonprofits, academia, OpenStreetMap US is here to bring those folks together, forge collaborations and new partnerships to make things even more fun and even better for folks. So we stepped even more into government in the past few years, which has been really great. We have a government working group with over 100 folks in it, from local government to state to federal. It's been really fun to fight about authoritative data like every couple weeks. And then, of course, our private sector partners who have been within OpenStreetMap for forever, and were there when it was founded, I think. So it's kind of where OpenStreetMap US sits, and we do that convening in a number of ways. Of course, this conference is the way we do it once a year, but throughout the year, any given week, we have 2 or 3 working groups going on. So if you didn't know about the working groups, this is a great way to get involved in conversations that interest you. Our newest one is the pedestrian working group, which you'll hear about just after this talk. The Trails Working Group will have a meeting later today, Imagery Working Group, the Government Working Group, like I said, and our Education Working Group has a bunch of members here today, too. So if you have questions about these, you might, how many people have been to a working group meeting? Cool, ask those people about it. We also have our events, like I said, Mappy Hours. If you're not familiar, they happen usually in the evening, 8 to 9 p.m. online. We invite folks, so if you have a story to tell and you want to have an audience to tell it to, the Mappy Hour is a great way to get that story out. We're always happy to invite new folks onto the platform to host a Mappy Hour. We're a presenting partner at FedGeo Day, which is held annually, generally in the DC area. It's the open source of federal, is what they like to say, but it's been a great conference to be a part of as an organization. And then this is our logo from this year's Mapping USA. We had probably more than 450 attendees attend virtually, 29 speakers, and we'll be doing that again in January. So if you didn't present this time, we have 95 presenters this time, so a lot of this room is actually presenting, but think about presenting at Mapping USA. It's a great place to get started. We also have programs, but you've heard enough from me, so I'm going to invite Alyssa Castronuovo to share with you about our programs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alyssa. I'm the program coordinator for OpenStreetMap US, as you all know. Started back in August, and I help out behind the scenes of all these wonderful programs, often on a lot of the Zoom calls, putting all the behind the scenes documents together. But, all these programs up here are powered by the people in this room who, make them what they are. So I'll just give you a little highlight of the programs that we've got going on right now. We've got Mapping for Impact. And with Mapping for Impact, we work with nonprofits all across the United States who are facing data gaps, map-related data gaps, and we help them solve those problems. So back in 2022, for example, we worked with an organization called Rising Tide Effect, and they help teach swimming lessons and prevent drowning deaths to underserved communities, and we help them map every single swimming pool in New York City. There's a lot of swimming pools. We also partner with a wonderful organization called Kaboom, and they build playgrounds across the country in neighborhoods where there aren't any playgrounds. We also have a member from Kaboom here to talk about their work. I believe Isaac is giving a talk tomorrow morning. I think I have that right. So please be sure to check that out. Kaboom is another Mapping for Impact partner. We've got TeachOSM, which is, I believe, our longest running program. It's powered by the amazing folks in the Education Working Group. And what TeachOSM does is they help educators bring OpenStreetMap to their classrooms, help bring it to a whole new generation of mappers and students across the country. And we have an entire, education-related track here at the conference today for TeachOSM and for the folks in the Education Working Group as well. And we've got the Trails Stewardship Initiative, which if you were in Utah, Trails was the theme of the whole conference last year. But we started the Trails Stewardship Initiative when land managers came to us and said, hey, we're running into issues because we're missing trail data or there's incorrect trail data on all these different apps that folks are using when they come and explore, our national park or our forest land. And, we convened a bunch of folks from the private sector, volunteers, volunteers, from these different nonprofit land agencies to help solve all these, data gaps when it comes to getting outside and hitting those trails. And then we have our Charter Projects program, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but we have 2 other new programs that we launched this year. We've got OpenStreetMap US micro grants, and we just launched our community project program as well, so I'll talk a little bit more about those. We started OpenStreetMap US microgrants because we wanted to provide more direct support for the fantastic people, in the room like you who are going around the country and talking about OpenStreetMap, teaching people how to map. So OpenStreetMap US members can apply for a microgrant in 3 different areas. We can help you fund your local OpenStreetMap meetup group, whether you live in a city where you don't have one and you want to start one, or you have a couple group of people, but maybe you want to rent a space or rent some equipment to help make your local meetups more interesting, maybe fit more folks in the room. We could help you do that. We help fund any travel related to OpenStreetMap. If you are going to a conference or a symposium and you're talking about OpenStreetMap, we could help cover your travel costs or your conference registration costs. And then we also provide a microgrant for 2 or more educational institutions that want to work on a mapping project together. So bringing teachers and students across the country together to work on OpenStreetMap projects. And you can see we've got 2 cycles coming up for the rest of 2025 for those grants. So you're welcome to take a picture of that if you like. And speaking of grants, we've got a lot of grants going on right now. We are partnering with the folks at Mapillary to revamp the Camper Grant program, which ran in 2023. And this year we're sending 40 GoPro Max cameras and equipment across the country. We are talking a bit more about that later today in a lightning talk. If you're interested in learning about that, you can learn more. And we have our Community Projects program, which we launched back in September. If you've been around for a while, you may know OpenStreetMap US has our Charter Project program, which houses some really important and well-maintained, well-loved projects in the OpenStreetMap community. We've got Map Roulette and OSM Cha and Open Historical Map. We wanted to create the Community Project program to complement that. This is meant for, the smaller projects. Maybe there's only 1 volunteer behind them. Maybe they need help, funding server space or something like that, getting off the ground. So they may not be as well established as some of these big programs that we all know, but they are really foundational to the community nonetheless, and they're doing really important work. So we started the Community Project program to help support those folks, give them a sustainable financial and logistical home. And I'm actually going to invite my colleague, Jake, up here, and he's going to tell you a bit more about what they do.
Thanks, Alyssa. Our community projects are tech projects that are created by members of our community, open source tools that serve the OpenStreetMap mapping community or the users of OpenStreetMap data. And we have 3 community projects right now. The first is Slice OSM, which is created by Brandon Liu, who's here, and is a tool for downloading OpenStreetMap data. So if you have ever tried to use OpenStreetMap data, you may have found the planet file, which you can download from openstreetmap.org. But that file is 80 gigabytes and is pretty unwieldy to work with. So Slice OSM lets you zoom in on any area of interest, draw a shape on the map, and download data for just that region. We also have OSM Merge by Rob Savoy, who I think is also here today. OSM Merge is a conflation tool for authoritative data sets. So data sets produced by the federal government, like the US Geological Survey or the US Forest Service, that have authoritative information about the locations of roads and trails, for example, that might be out of date in OpenStreetMap. OSM Merge is a tool for finding discrepancies and repairing them to bring OpenStreetMap up to date with the latest information that's being published by governments. And finally, we have OSM Americana, which is a collaborative effort by several people who I believe are here. And Americana is a vector map style that celebrates the tradition of paper maps and road atlases in the United States. but also has done a lot of really fantastic work to push the cutting edge forward in terms of what's possible with digital map rendering. And all of these projects are created by volunteers, people in our community who saw a need and wanted to fill it, and came together and collaborated. And so we at OpenStreetMap US wanted to establish this program to provide a stable home for those kinds of projects. And applications for this program are always open. So if you have a project in mind, please reach out to us. There's information on how to apply on our website. We also have the Charter Project program that Alyssa mentioned. And charter projects are generally larger, more mature initiatives than our community projects. They typically have a lot of different stakeholders. They have their own governance models, their own bank accounts, finances, things like that. We have 3 charter projects. Open Historical Map, which is the most complete and most out-of-date map of the world. Just like OpenStreetMap, it's created collaboratively by volunteers, but it doesn't just map the world today, it maps the world over time, as far back as you can find in recorded history. And openhistoricalmap.org is a really fun tool to play with. You can go there, there's a time slider, you can scrub through the past and look at what the map looked like. Another charter project that we have is OSM-CHA. So OSM-CHA is a change set viewer and validation tool for OpenStreetMap. It's a great tool for understanding the history of why changes were made by other users, reviewing edits to spot errors, and it's also, it automatically detects and flags certain types of vandalism or other undiscussed mass imports and other types of problematic edits that might want to be reviewed by some other member of the community. And the final charter project is Map Roulette. Map Roulette is a micro-tasking tool for OpenStreetMap, and it's a great way to find impactful small tasks to work on. You can go to maproulette.org. There will be challenges like add missing phone numbers to schools or libraries, or check invalid polygons for geometry errors and correct those things. It's a really fun way to engage with mapping new types of data that you haven't seen before, or mapping in new areas that you might not be familiar with. Yeah, that's our third charter project. We also, oh, and I should mention also, several of the community and charter project maintainers are giving talks. I believe Martijn is talking about Map Roulette later today. I'll be talking about OSM-CHA later today. So if you're interested in learning more about these projects, please check out the schedule and come find us later. In addition to the community projects and the charter projects, OpenStreetMap US also operates a number of software services and open source tools that we build on staff time within the organization. So we operate the OpenStreetMap US Tasking Manager, which is another tasking tool to find ways to contribute to the map and collaborate with other mappers. It's a really great tool for working on large areas of missing data. It was developed by the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. We run our own instance that's available for our community to use. So if you're interested in creating a project, you can reach out to us. Field Papers is a tool for printing out paper maps that you can take out into your neighborhood, mark up, and then scan and upload and georeference so that you can use that as a basis for updating the map. Public Domain Map is a tool for government partners who want to use the same crowdsourcing tools and software stack that powers OpenStreetMap to gather data for authoritative government data sets. Layer Cake is a service to provide downloads of OpenStreetMap data in cloud-native file formats like GeoParquet, and the TeachOSM Tasking Manager, another tasking manager instance that supports the TeachOSM project so that students can learn to map in a safe sandbox environment that's not going to cause any damage to the map as they're experimenting and learning. And finally, the OSM US Community Tile Service, which is a vector tile server that powers a number of other projects in the community, including the Americana map, Open Trail map, and a few others. That's a little bit about our tech and tools, and I think I'm going to pass it off to Martijn to tell you more about the big picture.
Hi everyone, my name is Martijn. Fractional senior citizen. What is that? I feel it's lovely to see you all here. Like I feel like this slide is sort of a little bit redundant. Like you've seen all this. You've seen how how this small but very mighty organization has been at work to to make OSM more than just a map. You know, everybody, probably every one of you has encountered OSM as, oh, it's map data, it's free and open, we can use it. But then you get further into the project, and you meet all these people, and you meet all these folks who get together around trails, around government collaboration, and you see people who make software. Like Jake has talked about this, Alyssa has talked about this, so I'm not going to repeat any of that, and I feel like this slide is sort of combining all those things and saying, like, okay, we are so much more than a map. We're all here, you know, this is fantastic. I don't know of any other map that does that, quite honestly. So, like, what OSM US is doing, and it's like, I was there in Salt Lake. How many of you were in Salt Lake last year? You've heard a similar introduction, but there's so much new stuff. You know, we have two new programs. We have charter projects that are like every year. There's so much new stuff, and it's like 5 people that do this. You know, this is I keep being amazed by that, and I think the main thing that we do is just kind of making sure that the people behind the map are all connected. You know, and this goes. This has a data dimension. You know, we have to learn how to work together with the same data. I think the Trails Working Group is an excellent example of that, where we bring together National Park Service, government agencies, commercial users of trail data, and the citizens, the mappers, the people who use the trails, to come together and create this common understanding of what map data is and what it can do for us. It basically democratizes the map, right? It democratizes the process of building an understanding of our geospatial world together. And I think it's incredibly important that OSM US exists to facilitate all of that, to bring us all together like we are sitting together here now. I hope you use this weekend to kind of build new connections with each other, as well as meeting up with old friends. It's always so exciting to see that there's more than half of people that have never been at one of these things before. And OSM US also makes a huge impact on bringing new people here with the scholarships and everything. So I think that's, yeah, I keep being amazed by this organization. And I hope you can appreciate all that they do, and I'm incredibly proud of them. Going back to why do we all do this? There's a lot of personal motivations. You know, you want to do good. You want to contribute to something that is a public good, that is OpenStreetMap. People are passionate, like people want to learn skills. The whole educational component is incredibly valuable to educate like our younger citizens to have geographic understanding. You know, I think in this world it's more important than ever to have that. I think a lot of these skills, a lot of these motivations are very deeply personal. You know about a place, you care about mountain biking, you care about people getting around in different ways and being able to participate fully in society, whatever your interests or abilities are. And this is just some of the folks who tell us about that. You know, some people just want to map in rural areas, and they get excited about sort of filling out the map in those places. Mountain biking trails, people get passionate about mountain biking. I know a few people here that are very passionate about mountain biking and just want a complete map that didn't exist before. People have problems with Google Maps or other maps that can't find their address, like Amazon can't deliver my packages. How can I fix that? You can't, unless you work with OpenStreetMap. So there's all these personal motivations, like place is very personal. It's deeply personal, that's why it's so important that OpenStreetMap exists and that OpenStreetMap US exists to bring us all together here. So I want to kind of celebrate that, and I think we all want to celebrate that community, that OpenStreetMap being a deeply human endeavor that is a lasting thing that will outlive us, hopefully. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass it back to Maggie to do some closing remarks, and then I hope you all have a fantastic time.
You get me back. Does this resonate with anyone in the room? Yeah? Good. So I hope we all we're not saying goodbye, we're saying welcome, but just some ways to stay connected once we all kind of dive into our sessions and start nerding out and getting into the map. But OpenStreetMap US has a newsletter, so you can stay connected. We don't spam you too much. It's a monthly newsletter. We can join the OpenStreetMap US Slack. There's going to be 8,000 of your mappiest friends there to welcome you. So you can find that out, or if you want to talk a little bit more about the organization, OpenStreetMap US has a table. It's where the socks are. Other ways to get involved: join a working group. There's a form on our website. You can fill that out if you're interested. We'd love for you to join us as a member, even as an organization or a membership. That really makes sure that we can keep all of these programs and tools going as an organization. We are a small team, but we try to do a lot with the dedication and investment that all of you make in us as an organization, so thank you for that. Thanks again to Boston University, the Foundry, OpenStreetMap members and community, and the working group participants. Thanks to Tiffany and the Mayor's Office for taking the time to come, and thanks again to the program committee. So with that, I just wish you all a wonderful conference. If there's anything you need, if the complaints department is across the street. But thanks again for being here, and I really wish you a truly wonderful conference.